So, you're spending hundreds of dollars on like UV purifiers and HEPA filters because your house just smells persistently musty.
Oh, yeah, constantly.
Right. Or maybe your allergies are just screaming and you literally cannot figure out why. You're swapping out those HVAC filters for the absolute most expensive ones on the shelf, just desperately trying to scrub the air in your living room.
The ones that promise to catch, like every single microparticle.
Exactly. But today's deep dive actually reveals that, well, we are throwing our money at the wrong floor of the house. The actual villain behind your indoor air quality nightmare, it really has nothing to do with the environment in your living space.
Not at all.
The real culprit is hiding right above your ceiling. It is the delivery system itself, your ductwork.
Yeah, it's that classic out of sight, out of mind problem. I mean, we hyper-focus on that shiny condenser unit sitting out in the backyard making all the noise.
Oh, yeah, the big loud box.
Right, but we completely ignore the actual miles of arterial pathways delivering that air. So today, our insights are coming straight from the field notes of Dave Hartzell. He's a master HVAC technician and the owner of Hartzell's Heat and Air in Kingfisher, Oklahoma.
And he's out there in the heat, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He spends his days in just sweltering attics, fixing this exact blind spot that everybody misses.
Yeah, and Dave has this central analogy that, I don't know, it just forces a total perspective shift. He says you really need to view your duct system as the lungs of your home.
The lungs, I love that.
Yeah, because every single cubic foot of conditioned air, it has to travel through those lungs before it reaches your face. So whether you're blasting the heat in February or the AC in August, the ductwork is the actual environment your air lives in before you breathe it.
Yeah.
And if those lungs are compromised, the air just picks up the disease and delivers it directly to your dining room table.
Right. And when you frame it as a respiratory system, the mechanical failures just start to make a lot more sense. I mean, the air handler is really just a mechanical heart-pushing volume.
Just a pump, basically.
Exactly, just a pump. But the ducts, they dictate the quality of what's actually being pushed.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our first major symptom is water, where it shouldn't be. But wait, hold on. A leak in an air tunnel, which is essentially just blowing wind, causes a massive plumbing overflow in a totally different room.
I know, it sounds crazy.
Yeah, the physics on that just don't add up for me. Like, how does a tear in a dry duct up in the attic result in gallons of water destroying the ceiling below?
Well, what's fascinating here is it all comes down to psychrometrics.
Psychro what?
Psychrometrics. It's the physics of moist air. And it's really about the specific mechanics of your return ducts. You see, a standard residential HVAC system has two sides.
Okay.
You've got the supply ducts, which are pressurized to push cold air into your rooms. And then you have the return ducts, which pull the warm air out of your hallways to go get cooled.
Right, the returns are the ones sucking air in.
Exactly. Those return ducts operate under negative pressure. They're a vacuum. So when you have a massive tear, or maybe a disconnected joint in a return duct up in an attic, that vacuum doesn't discriminate. It just pulls from wherever it can.
Wow, okay. Because an Oklahoma attic in the middle of July isn't just warm. I mean, it's a completely hostile environment. We are talking, 130 degrees with just suffocating humidity.
Well, easily 130 degrees.
Yeah.
And that is where the physics of the evaporator coil come into play. Your system was engineered with a very specific temperature differential in mind.
Okay, so it has a limit.
Right. It's designed to take mild, 75-degree indoor air, pass it over a freezing cold refrigerant coil, and drop it down to maybe 55 degrees. It handles what we call a predictable, sensible heat load.
Sensible heat, meaning just the actual temperature of the air.
Exactly. It was absolutely not designed to handle the latent heat load of a sudden, massive influx of boiling, saturated attic air.
Okay, so when that 130-degree super wet attic air violently slams into a 40-degree evaporator coil,
the dew point just crashes instantly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the coil is suddenly forced to strip massive amounts of moisture out of that unconditioned air. The whole system is overwhelmed. The coil sweats profusely, and the condensation rate just radically exceeds the capacity of the drain pan.
So it looks like a plumbing issue.
Exactly. It mimics a clogged plumbing line perfectly. Yep. The pan fills up, the safety switch trips, or worse, just overflows right through your drywall ceiling, and the homeowner immediately assumes, oh, I have a blockage.
Which perfectly explains that concrete example Dave shared from his field notes. He had a customer in Hennessy, Oklahoma last summer who actually paid a totally different HVAC company twice to come out and clear her drain pan.
Twice. Wow.
Twice. And they just kept treating the symptom. They'd vacuum the line, take her money, and leave. Nobody even bothered to audit the home's lungs.
Because they just assumed it was a standard clog?
Right. And when Dave finally got up into the attic, he found this massive, like 6-inch gap in her main return trunk line. He was just sitting there, wide open, chugging hot attic air straight into the blower. He sealed that single gap, and the water problem permanently vanished.
Well, yeah, because the system was doing exactly what the physics dictated. I mean, it was basically trying to air condition the entire state of Oklahoma.
Right.
You could snake that drain line every single day for a year, but until you stop the return ducts from inhaling the attic, the coil is just going to keep flooding the pan.
Man. And this naturally brings up the next link in the chain of causality, right? Because if that overwhelmed coil is pulling gallons of extra moisture out of the air, what happens when it doesn't all make it to the drain pan?
Has to go somewhere.
Exactly, the moisture pools. And that brings us to the absolute bane of so many homeowners, which is that relentless, phantom, musty smell.
Oh, the smell that survives every scented candle and plug-in you throw at it.
Yes, no matter what you do.
Right. And to understand the origin of that rot, we really have to look at the structural reality of how homes have been built over the last, say, 30 to 40 years.
Okay.
Because the vast majority of residential ductwork isn't rigid sheet metal anymore. It's flex duct.
Right, the flex duct. Because it's basically a wire helix core surrounded by fiberglass insulation and then a plastic vapor barrier, right? So it doesn't have any structural integrity on its own.
None at all.
It's entirely dependent on how it's physically suspended from the roof trusses.
Exactly. And the material science of that flex duct is the real issue here. I mean, it's cheap and it snakes easily through tight spaces, which builders love. But that plastic vapor barrier and the inner liner, they're subjected to extreme thermal cycling.
Because attics get so hot.
Yeah, it gets blazing hot in the summer and freezing cold in the winter. So over a decade or two, the plastic just naturally degrades.
Oh.
And those hanging straps that support it, they start to bite into the fiberglass, creating these pinch points. So slowly, the duct begins to sag between the supports.
So it's basically like a hammock for condensation. Just
Yeah.
a kinked, sagging pocket where gravity just collects whatever is moving through the system.
Yes, a dark, hidden hammock. And when the blower motor kicks off, all that excess humidity we just talked about, or even just the normal condensation blown off the coil, it settles. Gravity pulls that moisture right down into those sagging low spots in the flex duct.
Oh, that sounds awful.
It is. Now you have a literal pool of sitting water in total darkness, baking in a warm attic. It is just the perfect, undisturbed incubator for biological growth. That sitting water inevitably breeds mold and mildew directly inside the inner liner of the duct.
And the real tragedy here is the delivery mechanism. I mean, you've got this swamp sitting in the hammock, the thermostat clicks on, the lungs take a deep breath.
Yep, and every single time the system cycles, a high-velocity blast of air rushes over that stagnant, moldy hammock.
Yikes.
It picks up the volatile organic compounds, the VOCs and the spores, and it forcefully injects them straight into your living room.
Which is just maddening for the homeowner. You're sitting on your couch, your sinuses are completely inflamed, your house smells like a damp basement, and you go drop $500 on a standalone HEPA filter.
Thinking that'll solve it.
Right. But you're trying to clean the air after it has already passed through a tunnel of rot. The root of the contamination is literally baked into the infrastructure.
Yeah, you simply cannot out-purify a contaminated delivery system. The intervention requires actual physical labor. It doesn't plug into a smart home hub,
Show app for that.
Exactly. It involves a technician actually crawling through a 130-degree attic, physically inspecting the linear run of the flex duct, pulling it taut to restore the structural geometry, sealing those loose joints with mastic, and completely cutting out the rotting sections.
Okay, let's pivot the physics here for a second. We've traced what happens when the return vacuum pulls bad air in, and we've seen how compromised materials trap moisture. But what about the other side of the equation?
The supply side.
Yeah. What happens when the good, expensive, conditioned air leaks out of the supply ducts before it ever reaches the bedroom? Wouldn't blowing air outward actually push dust away from the living space? Like, it seems like a supply leak would just act like a leaf blower, keeping the house less dusty.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it actually does the exact opposite, and it's a fascinating lesson in building science.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A house isn't just a collection of rooms, it's a thermal envelope. When your HVAC system is perfectly balanced, the amount of air pulled from the returns matches the amount of air pushed through the supplies.
So it's perfectly neutral.
Exactly, the pressure is neutral. But when you have a significant leak on the supply side, say a duct joint blows open in the attic, You're actively pumping conditioned air out of the envelope.
You are losing air volume into the attic.
Yes, and nature abhors a vacuum. A house isn't a collapsing balloon. It can't just shrink to accommodate the lost air. So when you pump 400 cubic feet of air into the attic, the living space depressurizes.
Oh, I see where this is going.
It goes into negative pressure. The house is now starving for makeup air. It desperately tries to equalize by sucking air in from the path of least resistance.
Which means it pulls from the worst possible places.
Exactly. It'll pull humid air through the microscopic gaps around your window frames. It'll pull air from a damp crawl space right up through the floorboards. And most notably, it will pull air straight down from the attic through the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that negative pressure turns your living room into a vacuum chamber, actively sucking decades of pulverized fiberglass insulation, pest droppings, and carbon dust right through the unsealed gaps around your recessed lighting cans and your ceiling fixtures.
Wait, really? Just sucking it right through the lights? Dave mentioned a striking visual for this that I cannot stop thinking about. He calls it ghosting.
Ghosting, yeah.
He walks into these homes and sees a literal visible ring of dark, shadowy dust surrounding the ceiling lights and the air vents. And the homeowners usually just shrug. They think, oh, we live on a dirt road, we have dogs, it's just a naturally dusty house.
They think it's normal.
Yeah. No, your house is depressurized. It is actively vacuuming the attic and sprinkling the particulate right onto your kitchen counters.
It is incredibly common, and it is a massive health hazard.
Yeah.
But, beyond the respiratory nightmare of breathing in old fiberglass, there is a brutal financial reality here, too.
The cost.
Yeah, this is the invisible tax of duct leakage. According to the Department of Energy, leaky ducts can account for 20 to 30% of a home's entire energy loss.
30%. That is huge.
Think about the economics of that. You're paying your utility company a premium to mathematically remove the heat from your air, and you are immediately dumping a third of that investment directly into the rafters.
Just throwing it away.
And in exchange for wasting your money, the depressurization forces you to breathe in dirty makeup air. It is literally the worst trade-off imaginable.
Man. But here's where it gets really interesting, though. When you hear about decaying vapor barriers, 30-year-old flex duct, and ghosting dust rings, you naturally assume this is a legacy issue, right?
Well, an old house problem.
Yeah, you think, well, my house was built in 2021. The drywall is fresh, the paint is new, my ducts are pristine. But Dave was incredibly firm on this point. Believing your new build is immune is a very dangerous assumption.
It's a myth that lulls thousands of new homeowners into a false sense of security. The reality of the post-2020 construction boom is that it has been incredibly rushed.
Oh, the labor shortages.
Exactly.
Right.
Subcontractors are managing severe labor shortages and really tight deadlines. Dave regularly walks into homes that are only 2 or 3 years old and finds catastrophic failures in the attic.
In a 2-year-old house.
Yes. He finds duct joints where the inner liner was barely sleeved over the collar and never actually secured with a tension tie. Or he finds brand new flex duct just lazily draped over a truss, causing it to kink and choke off the airflow like a bent garden hose.
But wait, how does a municipal home inspector not catch a disconnected duct before the buyer signs the closing papers? I mean, isn't that their job?
Well, because standard municipal inspections are often just visual and highly constrained.
Oh, okay.
Ductwork is frequently buried under 2 feet of blown-in fiberglass insulation, or it's tucked into the inaccessible eaves of the roofline. By the time the drywall is hung and taped, the sins of the insulation are permanently hidden.
Wow.
So Dave's baseline rule is sobering if your house is over 5 years old, or honestly even newer. If it was built during a rush period and the ducts have never been specifically audited by an HVAC professional using pressure diagnostics, you are in risk.
So what does this all mean for the listener today? I mean, we've mapped out the psychrometrics of the moisture, the structural failure of the flex duct, the depressurization vacuum, and this whole new build myth. If a listener wants to audit their own home's envelope today, what is the action plan? The diagnostic tree.
The diagnostic tree starts at the absolute most accessible point, the air filter. A lot of people think a clogged filter just means less air comes out of the vents. But dynamically, a dirty filter radically spikes the static pressure in the system.
It's like trying to drink a really thick milkshake through a tiny straw, right? The motor has to pull much harder.
Exactly the right analogy. The blower motor is rated to move a specific volume of air. If it's starved at the filter, it works harder, which dramatically increases the vacuum effect in the return plenum.
Okay, so it pulls harder.
Right. So if you have even a tiny pinhole leak in your return ductwork, A clogged filter will force the system to aggressively suck dirty attic air through that leak to compensate for being starved. Maintaining a clean filter keeps the static pressure balanced and minimizes the pull on existing leaks.
Okay, that makes sense. So step 2 in the diagnostic tree, the vent test, or the temperature delta test. While the system is running, just walk around the house and physically map the airflow, right?
Yep, just use your hand.
Push your hand over the supply registers. If you walk into your guest bedroom at the end of the hallway and the airflow is noticeably weaker, or maybe it feels 5 degrees warmer than the air coming out in the master bedroom, you just isolated a structural failure. You're losing the velocity and the thermal conditioning somewhere in the attic run between the central unit and that specific room.
Spot on. And if you identify a weak zone, the third step is the visual attic check. Assuming, of course, you can safely navigate roof joists without putting your foot through the ceiling drywall.
Yeah, please be careful up there.
Yes, safety first. But armed with a high-lumen flashlight, look for the obvious geometric failures. Do you see a run of silver flex duct severely sagging down into the insulation? Do you see a branch line totally disconnected from the metal distribution box?
And this brings up a crucial point about the intervention itself.
Yeah.
Let's say you poke your head up there and you see a disconnected joint. You can't just wrap it in standard cloth duct tape.
Oh, please, no. Never use cloth duct tape on HVAC systems.
But it's called duct tape.
I know, it's terrible naming. But the thermal degradation in an attic will turn the adhesive to dust in a single season. You can use UL-rated metal foil tape for a temporary mechanical connection.
Okay, foil tape is okay temporarily.
Right. But for a permanent, code-compliant seal, you need mastic. It's a thick, rubberized paste that physically paints over the microscopic gaps and hardens into a permanent shell. And properly applying mastic, especially in those blind, hard-to-reach corners, is an art form. It really requires a professional.
Which is the terrifying part for most homeowners, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to invite a technician over just to be strong-armed into a $15,000 whole house duct replacement.
Nobody wants that.
But Dave has a really refreshing, pragmatic approach to the business side of this. He charges a flat $111 for a full diagnostic visit.
Just $111.
Yeah. He actually gets up into the 130-degree attic, crawls the lines, does the dirty work, and figures out the exact structural failure. And if you authorize him to do the repairs within 14 days, that $111 diagnostic fee is credited directly toward the repair costs.
See, that completely lowers the barrier to entry for getting a qualified set of eyes on the system. Furthermore, his philosophy is conservation first. He explicitly noted that he does not push for massive, expensive tear-outs if the core infrastructure is sound and you genuinely just need a few collars sealed with mastic or maybe a sagging run re-strapped to the trusses.
Right. Just an honest diagnosis of the lungs. And fixing the ducts is critically important right now, especially if you're a homeowner in Oklahoma planning to upgrade your actual condenser unit. The current rebate landscape is massive right now.
Oh yeah, huge rebates.
OG&E is offering up to $1,500 on new, highly efficient HVAC systems and up to $1,000 per ton if you upgrade to geothermal technology. But Dave issued a massive warning about chasing those rebates. He said, do not install a high-efficiency rebated system onto compromised, leaky ductwork.
It is the mechanical equivalent of buying a finely tuned Ferrari and driving it on 4 dry-rotted flat tires.
Wow.
Yeah. The Department of Energy rates that new equipment for a very specific SEER rating, a seasonal energy efficiency ratio. But that rating assumes a perfectly sealed thermal envelope.
It assumes your ducts are perfect.
Yes. If your 30-year-old flex ducts are leaking 30% of your air volume into the rafters, that brand new unit will never hit its efficiency targets. You will spend thousands of dollars on premium hardware, and your house will remain dusty, humid, and impossibly expensive to cool. The delivery system must be audited alongside the equipment upgrade.
Absolutely. So to synthesize the core mission of our deep dive today, if you are battling nonstop sinus congestion in your own home, if there are phantom musty smells that just refuse to dissipate, if your AC drain pan is constantly flooding the safety switch, or if you just have that one chronically hot room that refuses to cool down.
Stop throwing money at it.
Yes. Stop throwing money at standalone air purifiers. Stop assuming you immediately need to finance a whole new $10,000 air conditioning unit. The simplest, most mechanically critical fix might be staring you in the face, hidden just on the other side of your drywall. You have to check the lungs of the house.
The physics demand it. Treat the hidden delivery system, not the symptomatic environment.
And if you want a straight, honest answer about the structural integrity of your ductwork, and you're in the central Oklahoma area, you can reach out to Dave directly at Hartzell's Heat and Air. The number is 405-375-4822, or you can go to hartzellsheetair.com for a free estimate on a new system. They will crawl the attic so you don't have to.
Which is worth it right there. But, this raises an important question, though, and it brings us right back to the broader philosophy of how we live in our homes.
What do you mean?
Well, we spend endless amounts of time and money weather stripping our front doors, caulking our baseboards, and installing expensive argon-filled double-pane windows. We are actively trying to seal our homes up tighter and tighter in the pursuit of maximum energy efficiency. Right? But if our hidden ductwork is secretly compromised, if it is actively depressurizing the envelope and relentlessly sucking makeup air down through the ceiling gaps, are we actually just trapping ourselves inside a perfectly sealed box, slowly filling it with our own decaying attic insulation?
It fundamentally makes you wonder what you are really breathing in right now.